But I think that's what guys are missing today. You know, a lot of times when I do whether it's my live streams or some of my videos, and I look at comments underneath it, there's a lot of guys that, well, I wanted to have a wife and I wanted to have kids and I had, all this plan for all these things, and that's not going to happen for me. Now what? And I think that's a huge fear for a lot of guys, is the now what? What am I going to do with my life? What am I going to do with myself if I can't have a family and kids and all that stuff? And I'm a firm believer that you've got to build, and you've got to create, and you've got to design, and you've got to have hobbies, and you have to find something that you have to work for. I mean, because face it, like, I'm a little bit overweight. If I just said, okay, I wish tomorrow I woke up and I was 155 or 165 pounds of raw muscle and I had 5% body fat and I look beautiful, and then you go to bed and you wake up like that, you're like, this is awesome. I can eat whatever I want and treat my body like shit, and it's a piece of cake, and you don't appreciate it. But if you actually watch your diet and eat right and go to the gym and make that dedication and make it a hobby, then when you look in the mirror, you're like, damn, I look good. But also there's that sense of self-worth and self-pride that you have from actually doing it. And I think so many people today are missing that. And that is what's screwing them up so badly, because they just feel hollow and empty because their life has no meaning. And I think you need to do things that are hard. And I think you need to do things that are meaningful.
Absolutely.
And I think so many people miss out on that,
Did you read the article or see it in the BBC where these women lost weight using Ozempic, but then there was a dark side and a drawback they never saw? Did you read that one?
The only thing I've read about the Ozempic where things went south is I read 6 people went blind from it, and a couple of women have said they have osteoporosis or whatever it is with the bone loss. But no, I don't know if I saw that specific one.
This one was, they get their magic pill. They get what you listed. Like, you wake up one day and you lost the weight. Yep. And they still had to complain about it because they couldn't believe how they were treated differently and how unfair it was that society treated them differently when they were fat. And they didn't learn their lesson because they didn't have to work at it. They just popped the pill and they lost the weight.
Right.
And it doesn't provide them any context or self-awareness that, yes, you were treated differently because you were, I hate to say, but you were inferior. You were unhealthy. You were not attractive. It's bad for you. It's bad for society. People had almost the right to ostracize themselves from you, or certainly not be romantic partners with you. And they failed to miss. It's because they took the pill. They didn't go on the journey to earn the body. We're like, yeah, it was hard work, and I appreciate people who do this because I know what it took. They took a pill and they're just like, well, why didn't people like me back then? It's so unjust. And it's just like, you need to suffer, especially men. You need to suffer. You cannot turn into steel from pig iron without a galvanization or going through a furnace process. Right. And it just makes for much more boring people that you can't really relate to because they've never really done anything in their lives or suffered a little bit.
Well, I found that the happiest times I had in my life was probably when I finished my basic training and my military. After that, I did law enforcement in the Air Force. And after I went through that training, I went from, I was a decent athlete in high school, but in the military runs, some of the ones we did in air-based ground defense, we were going on 7-10-mile runs. That's farther than I'd ever run in my life. And I tried out for combat control, which I was just too small and couldn't lift enough heavy weight because you need to be able to carry another 6-foot guy, out of combat. Oof. And here I am at 5'6" on a tall day, or 5'7" on a tall day, or whatever. And I just couldn't cut it. But I was able to do the water tests. I was able to do the swims. And when you come out of that on the other side, you're like, I feel, not only do you feel good, but you feel accomplished. And that feeling, the one time I think I noticed it the most was I trained for close to a year to be able to run ultra marathons. And this was after smoking for 20 years. I smoked from the time I was like 17 in high school till almost 40. And then at the age of, would have been 42, I guess it was, 41 or 42. I'd have to look at my fitness tracker. I just started training, and I gave up smoking, and I started running, and I started swimming ultra marathons. And over the course of the year, I went from like wheezing up a flight of stairs to my lungs repairing enough, and started running. And before I know it, I was doing like 7 miles in an hour, which is a pretty good clip. That's about a 9-minute, 8.5, 9-minute
Yeah. Okay.
mile. And the farthest run I have ever done to date was 45 miles. And it's a run jog. Like, you're not sprinting the whole time. Some guys are good enough for that, but you jog for maybe 5 or 8 or 10 miles, and then you walk for half an hour, 45 minutes to catch your breath and work out your muscles, and because your calves will stiffen up till they're like iron. And then you run for maybe another half hour. And I was able to get 45 miles done in 24 hours. So it's not a fast clip. It's like 2.5 miles an hour. But that's enough to, when you go 45 miles and it's cold and you're doing obstacle courses and stuff like that. And when I finished that, I'll tell you, I just laid there and my muscles were twitching and everything hurt on me. And at the moment, I regretted it. But about, I'd say 8 hours later, 10 hours later, when my muscles finally calmed down and everything, the sense of pride and accomplishment I had made every bit of work I did worth it. Every bit was worth it. And then since then, it's like, well, I feel like eating like crap today, and I feel like doing, and now, my cheeks show it, and my skin shows it. And so I think that struggle is what, but you have to go back to another struggle. My problem is I did a bunch of struggles, and I said, I'm going to take it easy for a little while. And the minute you do that, that's when you start losing your edge. You're, like you say, your sharpened iron and forged in fire quickly turns into a butter knife that's kind of dull and needs some sharpening. So,
well, I'm wrestling with that myself because I got a lot of things done, but there's such a thing as going too much, too long. You burn out, you lose the passion for it. But so I have no problem with people take like a sabbatical. You need to rest up. But I will say this, going forward, especially for younger guys, you'll everything will get tiresome. You'll get sick of everything, video games, booze, whatever else, even women. But that has never been the case when I've accomplished something, whether it's a new mountain or even just changing my oil or something like that. I really enjoy working in my garage because you get that hit. And I think that's kind of a blessing where there's a limitless amount of things and accomplishments you can do. And it really then is up to you to find out what you want to do. So I want to get into auto mechanics, get some more formalized training. I would like to get into boxing. But I'll be driving throughout the country. I'm like, oh yeah, I climbed that mountain. Like I remember that. And so it carries with you, but yeah, if there's something to go for, it's some kind of new challenge or experience. Cause you will get that hit. You will get the feelings healthy for you too, but it never gets tiring. It never wears out its welcome.
well, I think,
And it's dirt cheap too. Oftentimes it's free for you to do, or saving money even.
yeah, I think that's the big thing is, like, for example, I did the ultra marathons. I'd like to go back to them. I've done jujitsu and some judo before. I don't know if there's any good places around here for that. But the nice thing is when you say, I'm kind of done with this, right? I don't want to do that right now. I think guys that are creative, or guys that know the satisfaction that comes from a job well done on a task that's hard, that's when you say, well, like what I was talking about earlier, I'm going to build my furniture for this house. And the first pieces will be probably the roughest, and you refine it and you get better, and you start with benches and simple tables, and you work up and you work to more difficult pieces, and eventually I'll never be a craftsman per se, but compared to where I started, I'll probably feel a much larger sense of accomplishment versus all that. And every time you use a piece of furniture, there's a story on it. I wish I'd done this a little different on this piece, or maybe I'll take this apart and change this about it, or maybe I'll just hit this one with the axe a few times, throw it in the fireplace for winter heat, and start over again and do it again. And I think that more than anything is what drives men to accomplishment. Because when you have a family, guys you look at someone like my father, my grandfather, anybody else, and I know my father always had pride in what he did, but a lot of it was for the house or for the kids or for my mom. She'd want a new cabinet, or she'd need something done in the kitchen, and he built custom cabinets for her and a new countertop. he loved those cabinets and countertop more than she ever did. And she loved them. You know what I mean? She loved them. But
Mm.
since he put it in there, and he always said, well, I should have done this different. I could have done this better. But that task to the next one was things mom or we kids asked him to do. And without that, I think a lot of guys feel lost where you just need to find out, your projects on your own. And I think too many times guys don't. They just fall into this play. And I've done it myself. So I'm certainly not, being criticizing anybody, but I've done it myself where you just fall into this place of complacency. And before you know it, you're out of shape. You're not learning anything new. You're not doing anything interesting. And you feel bored and life is repetitive. And I think guys need to snap out of that because that's where happiness lies. It's not in the woman or in the kids. It's what that allows you to do as a man to feel a sense of accomplishment and pride.
I would say, especially given the malaise or depression or black pill doomerism or whatever, traditionally you were motivated by external forces, whether that was a career, survival, avoiding starvation, but more so having sex and having a family. And you're here now, whether you wanted to be or not, you're here. And I think, especially in a first world nation where you got all your stuff kind of bought and paid for, like you don't have to work that hard to get cheap food, video games, some Nebraska corn or whatever, and exist. But man, that's a recipe for sadness, depression, and malaise because you're not even living. But the most important thing I would think for young guys today and gals too is you have to find something, even if you don't want to. That initial inertia, you got to build up that initial momentum the first day at the gym. Yeah, it sucks, but you know what sucks even worse? The day not going to the gym or the not looking, at the Goodwill or the reuse it center for some furniture. Like you have to, and normally you be occupied plenty with work and survival, a family, working on your home and all that. But you don't have that now. So it's almost your first and primary responsibility is to go find something to do and something challenging, not necessarily fun all the time. There would be plenty of that. And I think that would definitely cure a lot of guys of their malaise and sadness and just existential existence.
Well, that reminds me of something that I actually wanted to ask you quite a while ago, and I just never got around to it because we haven't chatted in a while. But you've been on the what do they call it? The Rule Zero podcast / YouTube, right? Isn't that what they call it? Rule Zero?
Yeah, Rule Zero with it was originally Rolo in the gang, and I was like Rhinestone and the guys. Are you talking Access Vegas or
kind of all of it? Kind of all of it.
Okay.
What is their main focus now? And the reason why I ask is because I back in the day, a lot of them were really focused on women dating, hookup culture, how to mac women and that kind of thing. Is that still kind of the case, or is that changing? Is that changing around a little bit now?
It's changing. I think what's happened is, in general, we've rediscovered lost wisdom. We figured out all the main stuff. And I don't think, to be truthful, there's a lot new to be uncovered. I think frankly, we did figure women out. We figured men out. We got a really good, thorough model that explains it all. Now it's just keeping up with developments. Like, remember how the Soviets and the Americans, the Soviets would make the MiG-15. Oh, we better make the F-86. Oh, they got the MiG-19. Oh, we got to get the F-4 Phantom.
Right.
So I think there's just keeping on top of trends. Okay, what's the latest weird stuff coming out of girl world this time or academia? So it isn't that we're covering new grounds. It's more like, okay, what happened recently in the news? And so it's not necessarily as deep or philosophical as much as it's just keeping up with the times.
But is the focus still kind of chasing after women and scoring women and that kind of thing?
It's women focused. I don't know if it'd be so much about chasing after women, but like understanding them. Like, see, here's this phenomenon in the real world that happened recently. Here's why, based on previous research or philosophy we've done. So it's still female focused. It every once in a while will like go into health or finances, but I mean, that's been going on since forever. So it's not as revolutionary or eye-opening or novel as it was, say, 20 years ago.
Okay. The reason why I ask is because, we're talking about hobbies and things and sense of accomplishment. And for a while, I think the red pill kind of split off into a bunch of or men's groups or manosphere, whatever you want to call it, kind of split off into some different directions where you've got some guys that went their own way and you've got other guys that maybe have serious relationships. And then you've got the guys that were the kind of the pickup artist ones. And what I always wondered is the pickup portion of it about, about getting laid and getting like a big body count and notches and all that? Or is it that I need a hobby? I want to sell a sense of accomplishment, and a fun gauge and a fun hobby of that is figuring out if I can game women and sleep with them and hook up with them. And my success is my notch counter or how easily I can pick up women or my day game or any of that stuff. And I just wondered if they ever made the connection in that, because I've always looked at it as an exceptional waste of time. Chasing after women to me is like a cat chasing its own tail. But if I just didn't know if they look at it as like, well, it's a hobby, it's something to do, and it's fun, and sex is fun. So I just didn't know if you had any insight on that.
No, if anything, I've seen them retreat to a more intellectual, like like you said, like, why am I doing this? This is why that Book of Numbers book did so well, is it measured your statistical chances of success with women at various levels. I also think the PR that women have been putting out on the internet has definitely deterred men, where they're like, they've become more monk and more inflective. Like, okay, what can I do with my life? I know for like very specific people who enjoy it, right? Like I don't enjoy watching sports, but some people do. And I think there are some, men out there, 4 billion of us. There's some who do enjoy the chase and they love traveling around, and maybe it's all new and exotic to them. A lot of people going overseas. So I think that's kind of it. And maybe they do enjoy it for the sport, but in general, especially the younger you go, these boys, I think they maybe asked a couple girls out in middle school and high school. They tried, they said, this is BS. They see what's on the internet. So they're very deterred, but that doesn't change their genetics or their hormones. So now they're like, well, what do I do? And for, a lot of people may pick on the Zoomers and the millennials, but these younger people are way more street smart and philosophical than we were. They realize that just because it's pretty don't mean you have to chase it or it's worth it.
Well,
so it's been phenomenal to watch these younger people with the knowledge we wish we had put that into play.
I think they've absorbed the red pill. You hear a lot of times where guys say, "Oh, I'm going to go John Galt, or I'm going to go no contact, or I'm just going to fuck off into the woods and screw everybody else." But I think what's important is the guys that have kind of hung around and put out the content or just absorbed the content and are the ones on the internet making the snarky comments on some chick that posts something and guys start calling it a thirst trap and, and all the other things that are out on the internet. And then you've got women that are putting out these videos that show them in the absolute worst light. You've got the New York Post, I just go to the New York Post, lifestyle,
Daily Mail?
No, sex and relationships. And I crawled down through there, and in 15 minutes, there's 83 stories about women doing absolutely horrible stuff. And yet the news articles are like bragging about it. Like, these misogynists are attacking her because she had 600 body count last year. Here's what, and it's like, yeah, of course we're going to attack you for that. And you can call us misogynist, whatever you want, but you're on the losing end of that, no matter how you try to phrase it. And I think the younger generations, you're close to my age. I'm a little older than you, I think. But we didn't have that. We were still being spoon-fed that treat a woman well, and all you have to do is this, that, and the other, and you'll find your loving wife from our fathers and everybody else. And I think Gen X is probably the first real generation that started breaking that stuff, whether you want to start with like Tom Leykis or you want to start with, some of the other red pillars that have been out there for 20 years. Mm-hmm. And I think the younger generations have always had the internet. They've always had access to this stuff. And now with TikTok and everything else being put out there, I think they're inundated with the atrocities of the female psyche. And I think they're growing up realizing, oh, I gotta figure out something else for my life, because this is not going to turn out very well.
You and I are old enough to remember the 90s where girls would dress in cute skirts.
Oh yeah.
And they were fun and flirtatious, and where it was like, oh, hey, I like that. I like what I see. And I if I had to guess, I think the internet and with the clickbait and all that, I think it paints a overly negative view of women. But one, I don't think it's too overly negative. I think it's somewhat accurate. And two, that's all what men see,
Right.
especially younger men. And so whereas we maybe had a veneer that would attract us, and then later on we find out she's crazy or something like that. Now it's on full display. And Joker, let me ask you this. You ever go out with a girl who was really hot and like, man, I can't wait to smash, and she was so dumb.
Yeah.
She talked like, I can bang anything as long as it's hot, except when they're just so dumb. And it actually killed your sex drive for them?
No, I've never met that stupid.
Okay. Well,
But
I have
let me-
3 times where I'm like, it's so bad.
But
And I think that's what's happening to these young men. They're seeing this on the internet. They're like, I can't get excited about this.
You know, in my own defense, you know, when you're kissing a girl or you're actually into the throes of passion, they stop talking for the most part. So my goal was always to get them to that stage, or you know, cut it off before we got that far. And plus, most of the dating, you know, I was married from, gosh, how old was I? 28 to 35. I was with one woman, and then I was alone for a couple of years, but I didn't even date. And then I was with another single woman. You know, so as I aged, my brackets were 2 or 3 years with one person. But in my 20s, you know, that's when I was just an absolute crazy person. And I had the advantage in that as a young man, my libido was high enough that I didn't care if she was stupid. And, you know, that didn't dissuade me at all. But I think the difference is too, though, that, you know, when we were young, we didn't have the narcissism of the internet. We didn't have, you know, a girl she might have been pretty, but if you were funny and decent, successful, and you had a little bit of game, you could probably get out at least on a couple of dates with her. And if she found you funny and charming enough, you could probably get a hookup out of it. Today, because of the internet, because of women not just having, because I grew up in kind of small cities, I wasn't in anything big. So even the good-looking girls didn't get asked out a lot because guys were timid of them. And so if you were bold and brave and stupid enough, you could ask women that were at least as good-looking as you were, if not slightly better, and you'd have some opportunity if you could make them laugh and you were truly interesting. And all that changed the minute internet came out, and around the Instagram, Tinder, even before TikTok, but TikTok's just kind of picked up and taken off with it. But the Instagram, Tinder stuff, that's what absolutely destroyed women, because women's math is they don't actually break things down logically. Women are about feelings, men are about logic. And as a man, if I am a average guy, and if the world worked the way for men that it does for women, if I opened an app and it's like I posted my flabby ass posted a shirtless photo and I've got 300 likes, and you actually went down and looked at those profiles and realized half are bots and the other half are probably fat twos that are ugly as the day is long. If I saw that, I'd be like, well, at least ugly women like me and the bots like me. But if I noticed that attractive women weren't looking at me, those likes, those comments wouldn't mean anything. Where women will, a 5 or a 6 will post a bikini photo, she gets 3,000 likes. Well, the guys that are liking, again, it's bots and guys that are probably twos. But the women don't see that. They just see, oh, I get a lot of attention and I get a lot of compliments when I'm in my bikini. I must be an 8. And because of all this stuff, it has absolutely demolished any chances of a guy dating a woman of equal level or even slightly above. And now guys are like, feel lucky if they get one that's slightly below, and they're not scraping the wood chips out of the bottom of a barrel, all because of the social media. I think it's destroyed dating completely.
I would one up it even more. I think the social media, if you throw in TikTok and all that, so the dating apps have skewed women's self-valuation way too high. But I think this basically atrocious behavior, whether they're authentic or not, men have witnessed on the on social media has also have them pull away. So you have women pulling away, becoming more finicky, and men are looking at these women like, good Lord, I don't want that, or I don't want to deal with it. And so you have a where what is it? Supply and demand are going down, and you just have no transactions. There's no volume in
Right.
this market in terms of dating, and so you see that. What I what I'm curious is going to happen down the road, and I start to see this in my clientele. Uh, women had in past. This isn't for the younger generations. In the past, women were a tremendous waste of time. I mean, I wish I could get all
In
my
the
time
past,
back in my teens and 20s. I chased it
in
out.
the
It's a horrific waste of time.
in the past, they are more than ever.
Well, right, and now it's even less so, but the boys are not it sounds like a bad statistic, and it is, but then it's like, well, wait a minute, there's another side to this coin, but there's that stat out there where half of men from 18 to 40 haven't asked out a girl in a year. Well, what are they doing with their time? Well, they're not wasting it on women. Now, yes, a lot of them are wasting it on uh, prawn and video games, and just too much of video games and sloth and all that. But I'm starting to see a lot of guys where they are starting to focus on themselves,
Mhm.
career, building their own homes, kind of taking on their own home projects, entering the trades and things like that. And Lord knows where this is going to go, but these boys are starting to go on that journey, galvanizing themselves and having accomplishments, experiences, and things like that. And what I love pointing out is opportunity cost, because when you're 20, you have no opportunity cost. You're making zero money. You don't have a bunch of girls. So any girl that gives you the time of day, you're excited. These boys are starting to develop opportunity costs outside of women. So I don't know if these women are ever going to come back, or if they're ever going to give up the feminism or lose the weight or whatever. That's yet to be determined. But I think given nothing, like, I know this is an obscure story, but I went to the Dallas Zoo long ago, and there was this elephant in his pen. And I kind of felt bad for the elephant because it wasn't that big of a pen. He's just there. He's by himself, no buddy elephant or girl elephant. And he had just this big old log. He just pick it up and throw it down, and pick it up and throw it down. And I felt bad for the elephant. But I realized he's focusing on that log of wood because that's the only thing to focus on. So
Right.
you've removed women from men's lives, essentially. And that's what's happened. I'll stand on that one. Thank you very much, society, feminism, politicians, media. You've removed women from men's lives. These men are like, well, what am I going to do with this time? And a lot of them, they may not go and become the next Elon Musk, but they're doing things like picking up jujitsu. They are traveling. Some men are going overseas, obviously for women, but they're also getting some different cultural. Well, you traveled for 60 months overseas.
Yep.
And so I think they're starting to get lives, which is the thing you had to do to get women in the first place.
Right.
And so I think you're going to see the millennials, where Gen X started it. The millennials suffered, I think, the brunt of it, swallowing whole the propaganda, also being brought up pre-internet. But the Zoomer boys, I think they very much uh, have women dialed in terms of their interest and their probability or likelihood, and they are spot on in their cost benefit analysis. Like, I don't have time for this. I'm
Yeah.
going to go do something else. So I think there might be a renaissance of young men going out, maybe not the Italian Renaissance or something great, but I think men are going to start become very interesting, and they're not going to waste their lives, and hopefully they will not be as sad and gloomy as previous generations.
Well, I saw a story in where did I see this? It was mainstream, relatively mainstream, and they said church attendance, specifically Catholic church attendance, is starting to go up from young men, specifically
Mhm.
Gen Z, and the youngest of the millennials are starting to attend more church services. And I think it's their, for a long time, a man's calling would traditionally be a wife and his family. Lacking that and wanting some authority or some guidance other than the government, they're starting to turn towards the church in some ways. And I think, you know, nature abhors a vacuum. And these men, when they have these vacuums in their lives that would have normally been filled by wives and children, I think they're going to be filled with hobbies, friends, and probably some vocation that they love to make them money or something else. and they're naturally going to find it. Either that or they're going to maybe fall to the wayside and I hate to say become a leftist, but in all actuality, most of the people you see that are really struggling with their emotional ability and that are enraged by whatever the news tells them or women tell them or mainstream whatever, they seem to be really struggling with their happiness. Where, the guys that I see that are taking back masculinity and are not shy about their opinions and push back against the propaganda, they seem to be having very little to no problems when it comes to guiding their lives in a good direction.
Mm. Well, it may even usher in a whole new, I wouldn't say utopia, but certainly a way more balanced lifestyle than what we've had, I guess, past couple generations. Where if you're a single guy, and you and I have talked about this before, like you could get by on very little. And these boys don't, in addition to falling for female propaganda, women are the most important thing in the world and marriage, da da da. They're also not falling for you must become a corporate slave and you're nothing if you ain't got a car. And so I think is a much more balanced approach where these guys actually are going to have work-life balance. Where a buddy of mine, she's dating a cop and he's a younger guy, he's like 30. And I say, oh, is he putting in a lot of overtime? She's like, no, he refuses to do overtime. And they throw it at. I mean, that was well, you were in security and cops, so
Yep.
the younger guys would take extra shift for the older guys who had family, and so you work Christmas or whatever, and they're not even doing that. And I think what they're having is in absence of chasing women, having women and a family, they have much lower expenses. They make good money. They're saving a tremendous amount because wifey poo doesn't need whatever the latest Range Rover or what have you. There's an absence, and if they take agency, I'm not going to sit here and be moping and feel sad because I can't find girls. They go out and they do something.
Yep.
And so you're going to have some, I think, some very accomplished cultural bachelors out there who, well, they do a little bit of this and they do a little bit of that, and they work out here or they join that church or whatever. So it's, I never thought I'd be optimistic about anything, and I'm starting to look. I'm like, are we coming around the dark side of the moon here, where we can see the sun again? And you see these young men nowhere near as confused and nowhere near as divorced or financially destitute as previous generations. So
Yeah.
I don't know. It looks like we're on an uptrend, and I can't see unless girls decided like, okay, we're losing them. Quick, put on the French maid outfit and the June Cleaver outfit and start baking cookies. That ain't going to happen. So
No.
I think these men are getting the message loud and clear, and they're starting to increasingly make wise decisions with their time.
Well, I think your expression, a renaissance of men, I think that's a pretty good explanation, and I like that word for it. When I was a young guy, I was taught the kind of the same old from my parents as they were taught by their grandparents, and same. Meet the nice girl, find one that you can fall in love with, treat her well, give her what she needs in life, and you'll have the kids in the home and the happy family forever, and everything will be wonderful, and life goes on, and then you die, you retire, and then you die. And by about 24, I found, real young, I found out that was a complete lie. But I still had ingrained in me the belief that if I were, I can't be any taller than I am, but if I was in good shape and I was funny and I was comfortable in talking to women, which I was, and I'd get dates and I'd have no problems with that portion of it, but I could never keep one because the women kept goofing it up. And that sounds very shallow of me to point it to the women, but it literally was. Every woman that I can think of where my relationships didn't work out, the woman tapped out, she got boring, she had some other issues, she left, she cheated. It was always the women that said, entertain me, do something for me, make my life exciting. And in the meantime, I said, well, I need to work and I need to bring in money and I want to be successful. And that was my train of thinking because that was my father's. My father was the provider for the home. And so I always believed, well, if I can become successful enough and I have a good enough job and I can provide a home and I can do all these great things, but it never happened. Or the few times that it did, it fell apart. And finally, I think by the age of 42, 43, 44, somewhere around there, I said, that's it, I quit. I quit the rat race. I quit the grind. I sold everything I owned. I put it all into a backpack, except for a little bit of cryptocurrency and money that I had. And that's when I did my backpack around the world because I said, well, I've got to scatter the chessboard. I got to tip over all the pieces, dump them off the board, and start over again. And that's when I did. And that's when I started my channel and started noticing and started looking and started discussing these things. Young men today, they're at a disadvantage and an advantage. My advantage, and maybe your advantage, was because I was taught the old way, I worked really hard and I had a good work ethic, and I would take the overtime and the extra shifts, and I'd stick the extra money away. And I wasn't worried about retiring, but I just kept stuffing money away, and there wasn't a lot of things I wanted to buy. And I got financially ahead well enough that later on I could kind of screw off and take it easy. And then, in the second half of my life, go on the downslope as far as, responsibility and income and things like that, and still be comfortable. I think the young guys today are, and again, I'm guessing, but from what I see, I think they've figured out, something. I see the way the trends of money and the affordability of a home and all these other things that boomers and maybe Gen Xers had. I'm never going to have that. I'm going to have to work until I die. So the days of me having the big 401k and the house on the hill, that's probably not in my grasp. So how am I going to be happy? And instead of slaving away and then retiring on the back end comfortably, I think they're looking at jobs and saying, something? I like this well enough. It pays me well enough. I can stick a little money aside for a rainy day, whatever. But I like my job. I have no problems working at my job. And I have friends. And I go out. And I do these fun things. And I have these hobbies. And I have these adventures. I didn't have that because I was, quote unquote,
sacrificing.
Too responsible. Right. I refused the sacrifice. And now on the backside, I can enjoy a little bit of it. But I'm 50. I think these guys I'm going to work and enjoy and work and enjoy. And that they spread it all, and that they'll probably go to work one day and then go home and die. But they can say, I had fun from, and the mainstream media and corporations and women are now calling it Peter Pan syndrome. Oh, they don't grow up. They just want to hang out with their friends and drink beer and play video games and watch the spicy content. And my answer to that is, yeah, so what? I mean, what else is there for them? Because everything they used to have, the house taken away from them by the financial markets, the wife taken away by feminism, the kids taken away by feminism, the job market taken away by DEI and feminism. At a certain point, guys are saying, I'm just trying to get along. I'm just trying to make things happen for me, and I want to have fun while I'm doing it. I think you're right, and I think they've figured it out, and they may end up being smarter than our generation was when it comes to this, because I missed a lot of great years because my nose was to the grindstone trying to make an income and make myself acceptable to a woman to marry, when I really shouldn't have probably been wasting that time.
I don't think that they're smarter than us. I mean, some might be. I think they're just not confused. Because they have, like you said, the mainstream media comes out and tries to shame them. The mainstream media, really, it doesn't mean anything anymore. No. You and I are, and I mean this 100% sincerely, you and I are way more influential on young men and men in general than the mainstream media is now. The mainstream media is a joke. But back when you and I were there, Ted Koppel said that. That's on the booby tube screen there. These young boys now have the internet to make it, they are not confused at all. Even, I don't know if you ever listened to Thinking Ape. He did a great video called There's No More Red Pill Rage, because these boys have their answers on the internet. They might be lied to by their parents or a little bit confused. They just do a Google search, bam, they're plugged in, and they got the answer right there. So I think they're just not confused. And since they have a more accurate assessment of the real world around them, they're making wise choices that, yes, they may have their fun now and they may just work, but I think they're going to avoid a ton of mistakes that you and I and our generation did, that they'll still be able to retire. They'll still be on the back end. Now, the big asterisk here is there won't be families, because that's increasingly an untenable, impossible situation. But again, just one person living on their own, I think they're going to have not only better lives, probably early on, especially with inflation, maybe not now. Over time, they'll have as financially comfortable, if not slightly more comfortable, financial comfortable times, but they won't have the confusion, right?
Yeah.
I don't know about you, but when I got stood up for a date and I got stood up all the time, I thought there was something wrong with me.
Yep.
What are you driving nuts trying to figure out? We didn't have the internet. Now you search it. There's go back old school. Corey Wayne. Here's why she stood you up. It's her fault. She was, in short version, she lied. She was a liar. And so they don't have that confusion. They don't have that hope. I think they don't have the breakups or the heartaches afterwards. And they certainly don't have the divorce or alimony costs.
Yeah.
And so I think they're going to live a life that maybe that's not happy in what they wanted, but it's going to be a lot more peaceful, going to be a lot more sane. And there's not going to be that oh my God, what did I do wrong? What do I got to do wrong? I think that was the worst part of my life. Like, what am I doing wrong? What am I doing wrong?
Yeah.
Nothing.
Yeah.
You weren't doing anything wrong.
Yeah. You and I definitely went through what the hell did I do wrong? Why does this keep failing? Where's my shortcomings? And I think young guys are going to miss that portion of it. What I do think will happen to them, and this is universal, is that, you can warn somebody 100,000 times, hey, if you do this, this is what's going to happen. And I mean, you and I were young. How many times were we told, don't do that, you're going to get hurt? And then you fall off something, you chip a tooth, and your dad said, well, I told you that was going to. I think young men today, instead of having the red pill rage like we had it, which was the true red pill rage isn't a woman did you dirty. It's that all women are doing you dirty, and you've been sold a lie that the system is much different than it actually is. That to me is where red pill rage, at least my red pill rage, came from.
It is that you were lied to your entire life. That's the
right.
rage. Yes.
It's, do these nice things for women, and it's men that are the pigs and want to sleep around, and women are wholesome and lovely. And that's my rage part, is I did everything right, and come to find out you can do everything right, and you're still probably going to lose the game. I think that's where the red pill rage comes from. While the youngest generation may miss the red pill rage, where I think they're still going to have to take their lumps. At some point, most guys are going to bump into a girl who's nice and friendly and conversational. Maybe that guy says, maybe I'll just ask her out and see how it goes. And they're going to have to go through the ringer once or twice themselves before they get the reminder. But unlike going through the rage where my entire life is a lie, it'll be, well, I gave it a shot. Yeah, kind of everything I've heard's right, I guess. So moving on. And as long as you can keep young guys from going through the what the hell is everything I've believed in for the last X amount of years a complete lie, I think that gives them a massive leg up. And I think it's so proliferated at this point. I go to 9gag and look at memes and stupid stuff every once in a while. I'm on Twitter. Used to be on Instagram. I'm not anymore. But I've jumped around the meme sites. I've jumped around. I'm pretty active on the internet because I'm always looking for something to talk about. The curse of being a YouTuber is it's not doing videos. It's what do I talk about today?
In today's world, it's unlimited choice. What do you want to talk about, man?
I know. Unfortunately, though, after 1,400 videos, you do get to the, well, I talked about that 7 times. So, it's one of those situations, though, I think, where I'm on these places and I see 2 hard camps of people. One, the guys that are, don't be a simp. You're such a sucker. You're this, that, and the other. And the other side that's, oh, you bunch of butthurt incels. You just don't like women, blah, blah, blah. And the guys that understand the game, they're going to be the ones that are all right. They're going to be the ones that are going to be fine. They know the game. They know what's up. It's the guys that haven't been there that think we're just a bunch of weirdos that don't know what we're talking about, even though there's literally millions of men with real life experiences validating and even data validating what we say. I think those guys that just assume we're losers, that don't understand women and all the rest of it. Those are the feminists. Those are the guys that think that they know what's the real world. And those are the only guys that are going to get hurt, ironically. I mean, badly. They're the ones that are going to get angry. They're the ones that will probably end up doing the harm to women because they went into this blind and stupid and think, well, if I'm super nice to her, maybe she'll give me some pity sex, versus the rest of us that knows actually what's going on and we know the truth of things. Then you can call us all the names you want, but those guys are the ones that are going to be okay.
You're right, because I think people, especially with all the memes and all that, like let's say you don't even take a camp right now. Young men with all the memes, internet, fresh and fit type of shows, whatever podcasts, you're right. They might get tempted by a girl who's sweet and kind, but I think they're way more like, we were like, women would never do this.
Right.
They wouldn't. There must be something wrong with. Now these like, nope. These are flawed creatures. Oh, red flag right off the bat. Like
Right.
they identify it right off the bat. And I would say that simp camp, that's dwindling. But I think we're always going to have them with us because it's just the lazy. It's like be nice, which doesn't take any effort. And they're desperately holding on to the fact that their personality and just being nice and supplicating women will get them. But even they, I think over time, you're right. If they want to believe that lie, they're going to get furious. But thankfully, I think that's a dwindling percentage of the population. I think most of the young guys there know, like if they get stood up, they don't feel bad about like how rude. They're critically, that is impolite and unacceptable and rude behavior. I'm glad she stood me up because I wouldn't want to go with someone like that.
I think you're thinking too rationally for
Really?
yeah, I think the red pill guys or the guys that are familiar with this content, they'll get it. But look at how many of these male feminists. I mean, I've seen at least on X today. I've seen at least half a dozen videos of guys literally digging in their own asses to wipe shit on a Tesla as they walk by it, or guys keying these cars and stuff like. These are emotionally unstable people, and there is a lot of them. I mean, just look at the numbers that vote. And I don't want to take this too political, but if you look at the number of people that are at some of these protests and how people are screaming and raging at the top of their lungs over the silliest nonsense that the mainstream media just gurgles out of their face holes, there's a lot of guys in that. And those guys are going to lose too. They just think they can supplicate these women and be nice and sweet and agree with the feminist propaganda, thinking they're in that camp, not realizing that, yes, those women will marry them. They'll use them for their resources. But if you notice, that's also the camp that has the 6'2" bull coming by on the weekends to rearrange her insides. Those are the same guys that are happy to be married and bow down to her needs. The same dudes that are in the cuck chair crying as their wife gets plowed out, i.e. Destiny. It's the same. So those guys are still going to go through it. I think it's the guys that are more masculine and more conservative that are actually the ones that see women's true nature.
Right. I was saying, what is it? 160 million men in America. You're always going to have that contingent. But if you remember the polling where they polled young men and women in different countries, young men are becoming more conservative, or at least not buying the Democrat line or the leftist line anymore.
Yep.
So I think, yes, there's millions of soy boy, male feminist, sneaky fucker gay men who are going to be the good little obedient. But I actually think they're based on those polls, they're becoming fewer in numbers. Still millions of them, no doubt. But I would say, yes, you're more conservative, libertarian, or simply apolitical, because you don't have to be belonging to any political party to see this stuff. Men, whether Democrat, Republican, are interested in women. And I don't think they can, for example, 30 years ago, imagine the idea of saying marriage is a ridiculous proposition and no man should pursue it. You'd be shamed out and laughed out. Look at this young man here. Ha, ha, ha. Funny.
5 years ago, we were called incels and losers.
Now it's mainstream thought.
Yeah.
Now it's like, oh, this is BS. There's no way where it's like smoking cigarettes. Like, look at these people thinking smoking cigarettes causes cancer. Now they're like, oh shit, it causes cancer. So whether you're Democrat, Republican doesn't really matter. I think these men interested in women in general are seeing this in the mainstream internet media, let's call it, because that's where their eyeballs are. And there's a bunch of memes of, lampooning women for nagging or whatever, or, girl bossing and all that. Everyone sees that. And these guys are more aware of red flags, regardless of their politics. Now, yes, you're full-blown true believer Democrat leftist soy boys like the two guys, Harry Sison and
apparently
David Hogue.
Apparently Harry Sison, or whatever his name was, he was talking to 10 or 11 girls, and he was getting all a bunch of spicy photos at the same time by telling these girls he was interested in. Well, the problem is, though, that it got public because he pissed a couple of them off and they decided to rat on him. So He got he got outed, and you know, once you get outed on the left, boy, you're gonna have a hard time. Let me tell you.
Yeah, yeah. But I think generally speaking, though, men are much more informed, much more street smart, much more aware of red flags among women that they're not going to be getting duped anywhere near as bad as we did or our
Right.
fathers did. I think they're just too street smart about the true nature of women now.
Yeah, and you're probably right. But the big thing that they need to be able to do is to make sure they understand what to do with that, the frustration, the anger, the energy, the direction in life, and what to do with it. Because if they don't, that's where guys go one of two directions. They get squirrely and weird,
Mhm.
or they get depressed and sad. And I think maybe the young guys coming up today never really get. Maybe their hopes were never up, so they don't come back down hard. Maybe they're just like, this is the way things are. I'll be all right. I'll figure it out.
Mhm.
That's hope,
I
at
will
least.
admit I will admit there is a malaise generally among men because they are genetically programmed to want women. I get it, and it's not being delivered, and it's been delivered for all of human existence. That's why we're here. But I do believe they're looking out for some kind of guidance where again, not to brag, but what we do here is kind of critical. We give men, heck, I even wrote a book called The Menu that addresses that thing. Like
Right.
absent women, here's all these things you could pursue in life. And I've seen several people, they're still down and out, and understandably so, but it's like, okay, look, you survived, kind of probably coming to the realization that women aren't going to be what they were that you saw in the old TV shows or the movies. Well, you're still here and you're obligated to go do something. And so I think after maybe not a red pill rage phase, but a malaise, kind of a sadness or an aw, girls say, okay, yeah, I guess the internet is right. I think most of them, or at least all of you, should at least try to get off your ass and like, yeah, I'm not saying what happened. It is I'm trying to think of it is a great crime against humanity what feminism, socialists, whatever you not to bring politics into it, but what the culture before you has done to women for men and men for women. It's horrible. Well, get over it. Like you're still here. Let's put some points on the board and go forward anyway. And so at least knowing the reality on the ground, I think, yeah, it is kind of a sadness. It is kind of a malaise, but then it's like, okay, let's go. All right. Let's go do it. And then I think it's sometimes such a simple solution. No, and again, the mainstream media vilifying it. Joker, you're not an economist, but let's say you're running an economy and your country runs out of tungsten. What do you got to do?
Well, I mean, you're going to have to go abroad for it. If
Right.
that's all there is to it. So,
Yeah.
yeah,
It's the same thing with the girls. Like if you want a family, honestly, you're almost going to have to go overseas right now for that if
oh,
you're a young traditional man.
I've said it multiple times. I have spent time. I spent time in Ukraine. I spent time in Poland. Which of the two of them, I think Ukraine, probably 30 or 40% of the women I met there were actually Russian, and in Poland, I'd probably say 10% to 15% of the women I met there were Ukrainian and Russian. And it's funny, man. I was out talking to a couple of guys when I was in Warsaw, and we were discussing women. He said, "Oh yeah, there's a lot of beautiful Russian and Ukrainian women here. They're really good looking." And I said, "How do you know which ones are Russian and which ones are Ukrainian?" He said, "Well, just look at them." That was his response. And he wasn't wrong. The Ukrainians, very high cheekbone. They look like, Melania Trump. They just had the very high
Okay.
cheekbone, the very angular jaws. Polish women kind of looked like British women or American, they just a little bit more rounded face and everything. So,
All right.
and no shade to the Polish fans out there, but every woman that you came across, you're like, wow, she's beautiful. She was Russian or Ukrainian. They were slim. They had the high cheekbones. It was the Russian model type thing, and that was the case in Poland. Now, when you get to Ukraine and you ask the women, again, because I talked to a bunch of everybody in the hostels and the hotels and everywhere where you stay. Then I said, how do you tell the difference between Ukrainian and Russian women? They said, oh, the Russian women are the pretty ones. And compared to the Ukrainian, I couldn't tell the difference, but they could, you know. But the funny thing about it is that the Ukrainian women that I met, which was mostly in the smaller towns, the Polish, almost all the Polish women that I met and had chance encounters with, all of them, like you could go on 3 dates with them, and unless you were like the 3 dates were to decide whether you were going to seriously date or not. Now, then after that, then you can maybe discuss, you know, kissing and sleeping together. There, it was like date first multiple times. Are we going to be serious? Okay, now let's discuss, you know, the rest of that. And I didn't find this out firsthand. I went on several first and second dates. It didn't go anywhere. Like the women were very standoffish and very polite and very 1950s about it. And I'm sure there's women out there that would, you know, do all the other crazy stuff, but not the ones I encountered. And then on the Southeast Asia, it was the women aren't nearly as standoffish. They are very excited to sleep and hang out and go on dates with good old white American men. But in both places, family and relationship and the man being patriarchal and in charge, both Poland and in like Thailand and things like that, were very much the same. So if you say, well, I'm more of a Latino, like I like Latinas and those ladies, maybe you go down to Argentina. If you like Southeast Asian, maybe you go to Thailand. If you like European women, maybe you end up going out to Poland or something like that. They're out there. But the thing that I think makes the big difference, you have to stay there. Because if you bring them back here, they get westernized and ruined.
I ever tell you about my Russian ballet dancer story?
No. How long were you in the ballet?
No, I was at a salsa nightclub, and I see this gorgeous, like we're talking a 9.5, 9 point. She was really good looking brunette gal. And I'm like, well, I'm not leaving here without asking her to dance. I say, would you like to dance? She says, yes. So we dance. And at the end of the song, I say, thank you. And I'm going to ask her to dance later, but you know, you retreat now. So I walk back to my table. I turn around and she had followed me out. And Joker, like the body on this girl was just, it was like, and my buddy and I are looking like, because this never happens.
Right.
And I'm like, hi. She's like, can I join you? And I'm looking at my buddy. He looks at me because this never happens. We're like, sure. Well, it turns out she's from Russia, used to be a ballet dancer, coming to United States for college and all that other stuff. And she's working. And everything was going real good.
How much did she want?
I found out it was something different. But she was married before, I find out through the grapevine. And they did this this bait and switch kind of trick where you're about to do the deed and they say, oh no, it hurts or something like that. And she did exactly on it. I remember telling the story on my podcast one time. 3 guys said, dude, that's how they get you. Because if you go ahead, they call the cops or they threaten it, or you could get out of it by giving them residency and marrying them. Shoot, I forgot what the point was I was making with this. And that was the thing. She was Americanized. So while we had this 2-month courtship, everything was growing great. And then, me and my girlfriends would go into the nightclub. Like she would just start standing me up, or I'd like to make it, but I can't. Maybe you should come to the nightclub with them. I'm like, no, I'm not going to go to the nightclub. And then soon she's just gone.
Yep.
Just gone. Like, yes, you cannot bring them to the West. You just cannot. They will adapt into this culture, and this culture is very anti-marriage and anti-commitment. So yeah, you have to keep it an away game for the rest of your life, or with visits to the U.S.
And I'll have to say, you know, the areas that I visited in the Philippines, you have to get used to it's trashy. Like, you know, the Philippines and even many areas in Thailand, unless you're way out from cities, there's plastic. They just throw shit everywhere, and it's very dirty.
Open sewers.
Yeah. And I like the countryside in both areas, but the cities were just miserable, and especially even the emissions on vehicles. Like the whole place just smells like exhaust from a tailpipe and plastic bags everywhere. And that was my problem with it. The women were beautiful. They were friendly. They were kind. And I'm not talking about the bar dives like down near that. You just go on a dating app and you can meet plenty of very attractive, very nice women. I don't know if I could stay there forever, but I know people that have before. And I think that's the only way you could do it. I think the only place I could stay would probably be like Poland. I could stay in like a Poland or something like that, but I don't think I could stay in the Southeast. But yeah, other than that, those are your options. And I think, me personally, I would advise, I mean, if guys wanted kids really badly, but for the most part, being a tourist and you get a 12, I don't know how much a round trip ticket is now. For me, I think it was like $1,200 when I went to Thailand. And I basically went to Thailand, and it's a 30-day visa, and you can get it extended out 60 or 90 days. But I didn't bother with that because it was about a $75 flight to go to the Philippines. And so I just, every 30 days I went Thailand, Philippines, Thailand, Philippines, Thailand. And I did that for about 4 or 5 months. And in each spot, I had a girl that I was dating in each one. So I wasn't just going out and hooking up with a bunch of randos in each spot. And I said, I'm going to go to this other country and check it out. And I just bounced back and forth between the two countries and the two girls. And I could have, I think I had every opportunity where I could have stayed with either woman in either place. And if I had stayed, yeah, you could probably do a family and all that stuff. For me, it's not what I wanted in my life. But I think guys that haven't, just buy a round trip ticket or just buy a one-way. If you got a little bit of money in the bank or you can work remotely, do it. You got nothing to lose. And I think if you do that, maybe you'll find out if it's right for you. But the last thing you ever want to do as a man is have that feeling of woulda, shoulda, coulda. You got to at least experience some of this stuff if you have any questions in your head.
I would also say the choice that guys got to balance is, especially for those that want family, which I completely understand, or maybe you just want a committed woman, right? You want a good gal in your life. No place is perfect. Yeah, when I was in the Philippines, Manila was kind of trashy and smelled like a sewer if you're in certain parts of town. Yeah, there's going to be cultural barriers and all that. There's not going to be a place without static. How painful is that pain going to be compared to trying to date, court, and find a Western woman in the United States to marry,
Right.
and not divorce you? Not to say divorce and there aren't scams overseas. I'm fully aware of that. But that's kind of the economic choice you have to make. And and this is why, like right off the bat, if I get clients that ask me, like, boy, I really like to start a family, like, you are going to have to go overseas because, again, I'm not everybody, but my experience with American women, it has been an atrocious pain in the ass. I almost want like reparations or want to sue somebody. I mean, it was like, this was bullshit.
Right.
And it's tremendous. I've never been divorced, so it's kind of like, I can't imagine what it's like being divorced and having your kids taken away from you.
Yeah.
So that's a tremendous amount of pain. I got to imagine that dwarfs any pain going overseas to a second world country where, okay, maybe you got to learn the language or you're not familiar with the customs and all. Yes, it's going to be painful, but it's nowhere near as painful as trying to find the needle in the haystack
Right.
of a marriageable quality woman here in the United States. So I absolutely strongly encourage, especially young men, and they got the time, they got the money, they have no responsibilities. It almost should become like a standard page in their playbook going forward.
Yeah, and especially now, I mean, there's so many, remote things you can do for work, but there's also like ESL, English as a second language. There's so many things that you can do overseas. I think were I to ever were I to do things over and I wanted a family, I was never big on the family thing, so that was never up my alley. But knowing what I know now, if I went back or if today at 52, I don't think I'd start a family. But if I were to go back to 40 or even 30, and it was a thing I wanted, I'd definitely be heading overseas for sure, Because you may have the pain up front, i.e., learning the language, finding a job, meeting the family, et cetera, but it's at least the back end is better. Here, not only is the beginning painful, the middle's painful, and the ending is painful. It's just like here is just a losing prospect. And I think women haven't noticed this yet. I mean, the marriage statistics are going down. Divorce statistics are going down because there's less people getting married. I think Gen Z is going to be the one that finally puts marriage into crisis. that is going to be what there's like marriage is just over and done with now.
Right.
At least from the smart men. There's going to be dummies that still get married, but I think the young bucks out there, I think they know what's up.
Yeah. No, I don't think they can afford it either. They're not making that much money. Out of curiosity, have you ever heard of Nice Guy?
Probably, but
blogger?
refresh
Okay.
my memory.
Well, he had a blog and he wrote this book called Land of the Losers. And I strongly recommend everyone in your audience read it. And basically, I won't beat around the bush. The guy is a spurg. The guy was like really super nerdy. He was awkward. He just was not good with women at all and was also socially awkward. He paid a tremendous price dating in the United States. But what I find fascinating about the book is then he goes overseas. So the first half is in the US, the second half is overseas. And the way he was describing his dates with girls in Japan and China and Taiwan, they'd show up, they were pleasant, and they'd even bring like a little gift or something. I don't know, like a little keychain or something. And how much easier it was compared to what I had to deal with back when I was younger. And it just, and he gets married. And he's married to a highly educated Japanese woman, I believe. I think he splits his time between Japan and the United States. But when you're reading through it, it's like breathing fresh air for the first time because the women are nice.
Yeah.
And they show up on time. And I think there is some kind of mental illness here in the United States that has really made it impossible and tainted many of the women's and their minds, where it's just like, look, in your mind, you think we're enemies or we got to fight or we got to compete. I'm not dealing with that. He went over there and they were nice.
Yeah.
And sure enough, even this awkward guy found a gal over there. So I think we're probably a point in Western history where there's a mental disease going around or whatever you want to call it. But you get one life, the country, the world will go on. I definitely would be looking overseas if you're interested in marriage.
And you said it was a Nice Guy and the book was called?
Land of the Losers.
Okay, Land of the Losers. All right.
Yeah.
I mean, I find fascinating stories like that, and I can look. I mean, I dated here in the United States before I left. Before I left on my trip. Of course, I'd used dating apps and things like that before. And while I was on my trip, Icelandic women were nice, and the women in Amsterdam and Germany and Poland and Ukraine, and I went on plenty of dates, and they were all very lovely, pretty, kind, and reserved women, the type that you kind of see yourself going on a few dates with and saying, hey, she sounds kind of like a nice woman. I think it finally hit home. I hit Australia, and Australia had gone kind of feminist woke before we had here. And guys were complaining like, oh, the dating here is miserable, miserable, miserable. And I'd been on my trip for about, I think, 16 or 17 months. I forget it was exactly. And then I hit back to the United States. And in the span of roughly 2 years being gone, everything just had gone bananas. Everything. I just hit it just right. And I realized what it was. I went for my travels in the summer of 2016, I believe it was. And I got back in close to the summer. It was May-ish, April, May of 2018. What big event happened in 2016 that changed everything when it came to dating? And
I was going to say Trump elected, but was that Me Too?
No, it was Trump. It was Trump.
It was Trump. Okay.
Well, and the Me Too stuff was also around that time, but it was when women were spoon-fed the craziness, and that Trump's this misogynist, Trump and the men and Trump and men and orange men, and it was almost like it was there were the old TV movies where supposedly they, you think about what was the experiment they did with the LSD, and you could trigger people. What was the name
Manchurian
of that?
Candidate?
Well, it was I'm trying to think of the specific project.
The CIA Operation something or other. MKV Ultra?
Yes, that's what MK Ultra.
Okay.
And it kind of reminded me a little bit of MK Ultra, where these women had just been programmed with this feminism and all this weirdness, and they went, Trump. and they just, and all of them came out of the woodwork and went crazy, because before I left, again, everything was normal. I came back and you had to be on a side, and men were this, and women are empowered and strong and wonderful. men are horrible and misogynistic, and I couldn't figure it out. And the only thing I can say is, like you had brought up, is what's the actress's name that had the Me Too stuff? Anyway, her
Eve McGowan or something.
Yeah, I think that's her. She ended up shaving her head and going wackadoo. But her and Hollywood got into it, and of course Trump. So the news was anti-men and anti-conservative, and so was Hollywood. And the message got out there, and everything just went kind of bananas. And it was right at that time, because I was gone for those first 2 years, and I didn't really keep up with the news. I had other things like,
fun.
Yeah, like just going to watch waterfalls in Iceland and backpacking around New Zealand and the Southern Island. Oh, if you've never been to Milford Sound, go once in your life. It's beautiful. But, and all these countries in between. And then I just came back and I was like, this country's changed. And it was a slap in the face. Like it was that different, to where the dating apps were different. Women were different. News was different. Media was different. Everything melted. And I think that's really when the change happened. And ever since then, women just haven't been right. They just haven't been. And I have to think there's something that feminism or women's empowerment or something just triggered in them. Because even conservative women will agree with the weirdos on some things. And that surprises me.
Yeah. It's moot though. I mean, I'm curious as to why. I'm sure I'd love to know why, but when it comes to young men or men making decisions, we don't have time to figure it out.
No.
Like, it's just like, look, okay, fine. Best of luck to you. Sounds like a you problem. I got to go to wherever, Japan, the Philippines, who knows, but it's not our problem to solve. I feel bad. I actually feel really bad for these women, because they're just going to grow up to be like have you ever heard, not to keep throwing channels at you, have you heard of Solo Second Half?
No, I don't think I've heard of that one.
If you want just pure spinster boomer tears, go check out this lady. And it's all about, she's alone and old people are alone. And if I were to do things differently, and I have no regrets and life is horrible. And the comments section are just golden. I'm like, and again, I'm asking a lot of women, like, can you not make the connection to these goddesses of feminism? Like Ruth Bader Ginsburg never smiled in her life.
Right.
Hillary Clinton is miserable. Yeah. Like, you look at these young guys, like, you don't have to go down this path, but it's not men's responsibility or obligation to do so. They can only react, and it just gets tiring trying to reason evidence with women. But I think we're beyond that point now.
Oh, by far. I mean, this is something I mention in a lot of my videos, and I think I've got about 3.5% of my views on my channel are women. But when you have a video that's watched 100,000 times, that's 3,500 women that are listening to me speak. And the one big thing I keep saying many times is, I may not come out overtly and say this in every video. It's not the guys. The guys are reacting to the market. Here's when women set the dating market. Women set the rules. If every woman required a flower to take her out, men would show up with flowers every single time. It would just become a pattern. And if you showed up without a flower, a woman says, "Where's my flower?" "Oh, I was running late. I didn't get it." Well, no date for you. It would become part of the dating law, as it were. And what women have done today is, women used to require dinner and flowers and taking her out to the movies and getting to know her, and she'd get to know you, and you'd agree having a relationship, and then you'd get to the bedroom. Now women are like, you up to the hot guy in Tinder and smash. You want to smash. and so the women have set the rules of, to getting my pants, you have to be attractive, and you need to show that you're desired by other women, and then you get to smash. And when that's the rules, the guys are going to go through it, and the bottom 80% of guys aren't. But this is the important part. It's the women that have made these rules, and it's the women that have to change the rules. The men aren't. If I just decide, or you decide tomorrow, well, the rules are this. If I take you out to coffee, then,
double D's only.
Right. If I take you out to coffee, you got to show up in the next day in a little black mini dress, and we'll go out to dinner, and then you got to blow me in the car on the way home. That's never happening. Like, guys do not make the dating rules, women do. And it's going to be women that have to say, I want you to treat me well and be polite, and I'm not going to sleep with you until we go on a few dates and I realize you're the right person for me. And then we become boyfriend, girlfriend, and have a serious relationship, and then you get to smash. It's women that have to make those changes, and they won't and they aren't. And because
I was going to say,
right, because of that, when everything goes to shit, when everything falls apart, the nice thing that makes me sleep like a baby at night is you can look at women and say, it's your fault. It's your fault. And young men know this, and young men realize it. And so we're just reacting to the market. And if the market shuts you out, if the market is ridiculous and you're not of that type of man that can, get where you need to get, then you just go overseas, or you go to bed at night knowing, well, it's not my fault. Like, they're the ones that messed all this up, and they're the ones ultimately that are going to get punished by it. And how many times, I'll get on my rant here, but how many times are these women out here saying, men don't ask us out anymore? Men, why don't men do things? Why don't men, there's no chivalry. Men don't get out of the seat. We're equal. Why would I get out of the seat for you? Why would I bring you flowers when a good-looking guy just says smash, ? On Tinder, and you're going out with him? You change the rules. We're just playing by them. And the rules right now state, if I'm not of that, percentage of men that is highly desirable by women, I'm not going to try. I'm not going to waste my time. I got better things to do. And then women cry because men just want to smash, or men aren't interested. They set the rules.
The deafness that men have gotten, like, for decades, men have been trying to negotiate and explain and argue with women, but I think we've reached a point of apathy.
Oh, completely.
Where men just don't even care. And I hate to sound bigoted or whatever, but I've slowly come to the realization that you're not going to get women to be empirical or to make a change in choice. I'm sorry, ladies, you've been conditioned to be this way. Feminism and media and the schools have conditioned you to be this way. And guys, for the longest time, because we cared, have been saying, hey, love, family, kids, be in shape, super happy, sexy, fun time, only to get yelled at like you're degenerate and you're shallow and you only want one thing and we're not objects. We're not going to have any fun, blah, 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 blah. And after a while, especially after the divorces, I mean, I've never gone through it, but I mean, that's got to really demoralize you. I think a lot of guys, both young and old, are like, fine, we're done. They're not even arguing with you girls anymore to help bring you, maybe see this side or come back because they care. I think there's like, no, we're not going to make any progress with them. I don't think they're capable of thinking of another side or critically following through on, decisions and consequence number 1, consequence number 2, consequence number 3. And so I think guys have just given up, and it's exhausting, truthfully. Like, did you ever see them Fresh and Fits shows or the whatever podcasts and the girls and then they're
completely.
It sucks your soul out. Like, you're not getting through to these people. So I see guys throwing up their hands and just leaving. It's a logical conclusion.
Well, I did I did a video just yesterday, and my thumbnail, it just says it's game over. Because that's what it is right now. Between politics and women are now like, you voted for Orange Man bad. Well, I don't want to date you. That's not enough. It's, you didn't vote at all. Oh, you don't really take a side on BLM or, well, that's not enough. You need to do the work. You need to be an activist. You need to agree with. So now, unless you completely agree with women on their craziness, it's not enough. And then you add in the only fools stuff, where so many women, I think 3% of American women are on OnlyFools now, if I remember the last statistic.
Didn't a guy, he did some math and he wasn't necessarily wrong, but it was like 1 in 10 college, like
college
dating
girls,
age. College age is like 1 in 10 or something.
Yeah, it's 3% of American women, and I think it was at the time it was something like 10 or 20% of college women. And when you start breaking down these numbers, and that's like you said in the book of Numbers. And I don't even think in the book of Numbers you talked about only fools, did you?
No,
yeah,
no, I didn't.
When you start putting all these numbers together, you just realize, well, it's game over. There's now. It's not to say that there aren't women out there that are dateable and wonderful and awesome, and that you can't date. But needle in a needle stack, At a certain point, you just have to say it's too hard and it's too painful, and I got better things to do with my life. And if one falls in your lap, that's fine. And I think the worst part about all of this, it's not that men don't have the women, it's what society is doing to men, even though the men are not participating. If I have to see one more time how women are crying and screaming about patriarchy and men having all these advantages, yet 60% of graduates now are women, and 80% of scholarship recipients are women. And Google did a review of the salaries they were paying, and come to find out women were making more money. And all the women have all the advantages, and at the same time scream victim. And the worst part is the worse things get for them in the dating world and all the rest of the things, the louder they scream. It's not my fault. It's those stupid men. So even as things get worse for them, instead of having a moment of self-reflection and a moment or an opportunity to learn, they're just going to scream it's men's fault louder and louder and louder. And all that does is make the gulf between men and women not only larger, but permanent.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's not going to be the generations alive today if we're ever going to get back together. It's going to have to be a future generation that hasn't been propagandized yet. But going on, yeah, men. Do you think the women are happy?
Oh no, they're miserable.
They're miserable, and I'm just like, I don't know about you, but like if I hit my toe with the hammer, I'm like, oh, that hurt, and I hit my toe, and I inevitably I'd make the connection. Maybe if I stopped hitting my toe with the hammer,
but what does that require?
Self-awareness and independent thought, and I don't know, empiricism?
Accountability.
Oh.
Accountability is women's kryptonite. I did a thing. It was my fault. I must make a change in myself. I shouldn't do this again. And women can't do that. They can't. No matter what it is, they will find a reason to blame it on somebody else. And I can't even tell you all the number of stories. Here's the one that was just in the news. Did you see this one? The track runner that smacked the other track runner in the back of her head.
Yeah, I saw that.
Did she take accountability?
Oh God, no.
No, she went to the press screaming that she tripped and her arm accidentally flailed, and she needed the American ADL or whatever it is, or the NAACP or whatever it is, to back up her story. And she gave a press conference. What about the woman? Did you hear the story of a woman who said she saw a little redheaded boy off the side of the road? And she stopped and went to try to help him, and it was a trick, and she got kidnapped for 3 days. Did you hear that story?
No, was she run off with some other guy that wasn't her husband?
Yeah, of course she did.
Okay. Right.
But how did you know that was the answer?
Because it's such an absurd, you're right. And it's accountability.
It's accountability. It's, I made this mistake, because men have to be accountable. If we're not, that's where you see guys that are like, hi, my name is Frank, and they go to shake your hand, and their hand looks like this, and it's missing 3 fingers or 2 fingers because they weren't accountable and they made a mistake. And then you look at their father, and their father's hands are like this, and it's like, what happened to him? Same thing. I didn't learn from his. Like, if guys don't learn a lesson, you end up getting ground into the dirt. If women don't learn a lesson, it doesn't matter, because they just blame it on somebody else anyway. And because of female empowerment, everybody says, you go, you brave girl. So until women can take accountability for their own bad decisions, their own bad actions, and everything else, another great example, Mia Khalifa. She did the spicy industry for a year, didn't have many videos. All the money she made during it was taken by the film company. She says it was men and peer pressure and society that made her do this, and how it was evil. Then she goes over on OnlyFools and starts selling stuff with see-through, T-shirts and all the rest of it. And again, men's fault. So as long as women are doing this, they won't grow, they won't change, they won't improve, they won't fix anything. They're perpetually better than men, and at the same time, victim of society because of men. And those two things can't coexist at the same time. You can't say I'm better than everybody around me, but if things go bad, it's all your fault. Well, if you're better, then they shouldn't be able to control or manipulate or whatever. So until they can somehow right the ship on that, they're not going to improve, they're not going to learn, and they're not going to get better. And here's the crazy part. They can't. They just can't. It is not in their blood. It is not in their bones. It is not in their DNA. to have a society that says it's never your fault, it's everybody else's fault. At no point do you say, maybe it is my fault. No, you just go right along with society and say it's everybody else's fault. So until those two things come together, or there is just a great collapse to the point where
they get to meet nature up front and personal.
That's it, man. Like either the boats are going to land on our shores and we're going to be speaking Chinese in 15 minutes if the military gets too weak, or women keep replacing men in the jobs and in the markets, and then everything falls apart except for the plumbers, the welders, the roofers, the sanitation, the electricians, and all that. And we go back to rubbing sticks together to start fires. Only then will men find appreciation, women saying, oh, men aren't so bad. One of those two things is going to happen. We're just going to keep going off the crazy train until it does. Nothing will change otherwise.
Incongruency with, and I happen to believe it, that they'll do anything long before responsibility is taken. But in a certain way, they are not at fault because they were propagandized. Do you think they'd be willing to entertain the fact that they were propagandized by miserable spinster feminists who hated, like, the evil stepmother of the Disney thing? I mean, because that's really what happened. I'm somewhat sympathetic to the millennials because they were lied to so much.
Sure.
Yeah, they made the decisions. Yeah, but they were propagandized. Do you think women would be receptive to that? Like, hey, you were lied to by these miserable women, and now you're miserable. You think they? Well, no, maybe. Yeah.
You've seen Fresh and Fit.
Yeah.
You've seen the Whatever podcast. How many of those women nod in agreement and say, you're right. I'm gonna think about this. I'm gonna reevaluate things and take a good introspective look at. Fuck that. Of course they don't.
Touche.
Of course they don't. Right. We're out there putting content. If a woman was saying to men, guys, here's how you could improve your lives and have success at dating and get women, and here are the things that women look for. What percentage of that female's channel would be men viewers? 80%? 90%? I think that would be a fair number.
Yeah.
Okay.
No.
Go ahead. What were you going to say?
No, I was going to continue on. I'm just agreeing with you.
Okay. So we have men's channels. We say to women, we don't like you being on OnlyFools. We don't like you doing this. Here's why here's what you need to fix to find yourselves men that won't just sleep with you and dump you, and to find a man that would put you on a pedestal. Date down, realign this, how many, what's the percentage of women viewers do you have on your channel?
Oh, 2.
Yeah, mine's 3.5%, I think. So are women listening?
No.
And there's nothing you can say to make them listen. That's the irony, because they've been told from the ground up. And the difference is when things don't work out the way we want, that was our red pill rage. That was like, the system lied to me. And you have this epiphany where then you come across people telling you what happened in your life and how things happened. And you have to say to yourself, okay, I was lied to. I got manipulated. I go through my rage phase. And on the far side, it is, okay, how do I understand what happened to me? How do I understand women? What am I going to do with my life now? How do I improve it? How do I move on? How do I grow? How do I adapt? That's what men have done over the last, 10 years, with this kind of stuff. Yeah, maybe even longer. Okay, but you've got pearly things out there. Not that I'm a big fan, but you've got pearly things. You got Jebediah, or not Jebediah. What the heck's her name? I forget her name. I was just looking at her anyway.
Jaleel, yeah, I know her.
I got her Twitter. And I've, but she's got 500,000 followers on X, and she does a podcast. And I can't remember the name for the life of me. But you got pearly things. You've got other women. Jedediah Bila, maybe that's it. Somebody just said. But other ones are saying, you've got Eden. Exiting Eden. I forget the poor girls. Anyway, the whole point is, I know at least off the top of my head 5 or 6 channels that are women that are saying, here's what's wrong with the dating. Here's what's wrong with this. Here's what's wrong with that. And you go to the comments. Men.
All men.
It's all men. Yeah. Men are the far from Eden. Thank you. It's far from Eden. I should have. She's such a sweet gal. Aaron's her name. those are the women are saying this stuff too, and the women aren't turning in. The men are tuning in, and the men are saying, "Okay, I hear men saying this. Here's men's opinions on it. Here's women's opinions on it. I'm hearing this from multiple sources. Okay, I understand it. I see both sides of this conversation. I'm going to work through this. I'm going to come to a determination. I'm going to whatever." Women are just, nah, shut up.
Mm.
And there's no fixing it. There's no fixing it.
And you know what? Everyone suffers at the end.
Oh yeah.
You know, the guys are, yeah. And just so guys know, I mean, it's not that women are going to go unscathed. I can't imagine what it's like being promised all this stuff in the world, and they're just going to slowly get old. And I mean, we're of the generation, the women our age are postmenopausal, the divorce or two. They're not happy. All should go check out that second solo, whatever, because the comments section is just vindicating. But no, it's really tragic and sad. But you know whose problem that is?
The women's.
It's their problem. Yeah, we got stuff to do. We got to go. And I think that's one of the most important lessons is I would just stop trying to argue with these women and try to deliver what they want. That's a fool's errand.
Sure.
You just got to say, this is not possible. This is not feasible. And it may sound drastic, but it's way better than sticking around here. But yeah, I would absolutely be going overseas. But you're right. Yeah, I don't think they would, even if we were to give a concerted effort of, hey, your feminist leaders told you this shit and it's all lie. You're right. They wouldn't unbelieve it. They would not question it.
And let's say that men and women will suffer equally through this separation and this difference in the world. Men suffer early because when you're a young man, you've got lots of testosterone, and boy, you want to just about bugger everything that moves, and you want to date, but you've got nothing to offer. And that's when a young man does his suffering, because he doesn't have anything to offer, and he's got all the energy and everything else. And as he grows, he gains more, and he will get to an opportunity where he can date. And unlike generations of the past, you, I, others of our age, that was when we hit our height of power, was 30-ish years old. We could date in the 20s. We had a decent job. We started getting our lives together, things like that. And that's the last phase for many guys, 30s, that once they get up to 40, they realize, okay, that's over. But that leaves your 50s, 60s, 70s. Everything's going to be better from here on out. Like low point is probably early to mid 30s for a man. When's the high point for a woman? Teens, 20s, early 30s, up to 40-ish. The difference is women they've had an easy life up till then. It's been easy road. Society appreciates you, feminine empowerment. You're at the height of your looks and everything else. And then what do women have in the second half? Well, they have knowledge and they have money and they have power and men don't care about any of that. They've lost their youth and their beauty and their fertility and all the things men want. So women, they get to the 40 and they're like, it's over. Like the whole way that they've done their lives is gone. And now here come the hard times. Where for men, I went through my horny days in my teens and I didn't have any women, and I didn't have any money and I didn't have any women. And then things got a little bit better for me and I still didn't have any women. And then I got to the height of my power and I had a couple of women and they were kind of horrible. And now I'm 40. Men still got a trajectory going up because they can make money. They're still good. And men are happy making money. Men are happy working. Men are happy going for that job promotion. Men are happy, and they've already been through the slog. So now it's like things start happening for you, and money, and my resume is a little better, and I can change jobs a little easier, and I can afford to travel, and I've got a little bit more of a foundation. So from 40 on up, men are sailing. Women have it easy until 40, and then everything's cut out from underneath them, and they just go, sagging, wrinkles, age, and
you know what else? They don't know why.
Well, exactly.
It's maddening to them, because I've seen a couple where it's like they really think that they're just 25 forever.
Yep.
They really think that, and it's like, you're right, and I think that's the hugest punishment, is you're confused. You don't know why. It absolutely has to be maddening.
Yep. And where we have the advantage as men is that our first half of our life is a slog. Let's just say you live to 80. Up until you're probably into your 30s, and things start coming. I didn't have my first really good job until I was into my 30s, where I said, this is good money. Like,
Mm.
if I feel like going out and buying a new car, I don't have to, do the math down to the last nickel when it comes to the car payment. I can go out and
Mm.
I've got most cars I can choose from. That didn't happen until you're 30, 35. And so the last half of your life as a man is a lot closer to easy street if you're healthy, like you're mentally healthy and you've got friends and you've developed, a job that you love and things like that. I think young men see that and they're going to be prepared for that. Like we were talking about with the job and the adventures and things like that. Women have easy street right up until the end, and then the carpet gets pulled out from under them. I often do, probably about once a month, I do a video on this woman named Yana Hawking in my chat.
I know her down in Australia. Yeah.
My chat's going to blow up but the whole point is Yana is 40 and she's been an attractive woman. She got a nice set of cans on her. She has for all her life. And just recently in her last couple of articles, she said, so I asked this guy out. Well, why would she be asking a guy out? She's never done that before. She just sits back and looks pretty and then has her pick from the men. Well, she had to ask a guy out. She's 40. Gravity's showing up. The wrinkles are showing up. And it's the opposite of click your heels 3 times and go home like Dorothy. It's click your heels 3 times, take off your bra and your tits sag 4 inches, and the crow's feet are showing every time you smile now. She's now hit the hard road. Mm. Well, when you have that easy 40 years and then it's all magically gone, you don't have the personality. You don't have the ability to talk to people. You don't have the humility. Character. Right. You have no character except other than look at my boobs and you smile. Men have to develop all of that. And even if it gets you nowhere, you've still got it in your back pocket. And then when you go to interview for jobs or now you've got some money and you've hit the gym a little bit and you want to flirt, whatever. And I'm telling you, man, we all go through it. The difference is men on the back half of life coast and women are just lacing up their boots to do the work at 40. And it's going to be ugly.
I cannot emphasize enough also the sanity, like knowing you're not crazy, knowing it's not you, like, and the internet. And you know what's sad? It's almost a self-fulfilling prophecy. Here, I like to give everyone a fair shot, but you're right. We could, and we have, you could tell women all day this, they're going to reject it. They're going to refuse it. And it's like, okay, but that's going to make you sane down the road, but you're going to refuse that. Guys actually listen and are receptive. If for any other reason, like, yeah, that's what I'm experiencing in the real world. This theory explains empirically what I'm seeing. Right. And going forward, like the guys get it. And I don't know about you, but I just turned 50 and my 40s were great, man.
Oh yeah.
And I don't say that like, yeah, I did it just to piss you off. No, I like the 40s were great. And dude, the 50s are even going to be better because I have less work to do.
Right.
And it's just, yeah. But at least, like you figured it out and you get that solace that comes with it. But gals will take it to their graves. Ruth Bader Ginsburg still hated men until the day she died.
And you know what's funny is that, when I first started doing my videos, I raged against women and I want men to protect themselves. But I'd say in the last few years that I've been doing videos, and I genuinely mean it, because I tell the guys, look, it's not, it's not you. And I don't really have that many women listening. So when I talk, I'm mostly telling the guys, here's how I feel about women, and maybe you do too. I don't want women to do this anymore. I don't, they always say like, oh, men love women that are on Only Fools, and men love easy women, and men love, well, kind of, yeah, when we can have a little bit of fun, but that's supposed to be the exception, not the rule. And what's happening is because women are doing this, it's breaking women. And then women are getting into HR and nursing and these positions where they're in power over men, and they absolutely destroy men. Or women are absolutely miserable assholes to deal with, and we get tired of dealing with them. And so I want women to improve to not be the bitter, awful people they turn out to be after they're post 35. And number 2, if they'd straighten up themselves, I think they could be happy and more men would be happy. Mm-hmm. We could come back together again and make some sanity out of this. But the women refuse to participate. That's what just blows my mind the most, is that we're sitting here saying, We don't want you to have high body counts. We don't want you to be insufferable to us. We want you to be kind and sweet and feminine and nice and not be alpha and let the man rule the roost, or at least, 60-40. And at no point are women like, well, okay, let's meet in the middle on this. Women just look at you and say, no. And there's nothing you eat we're going to do to change them. And that's the worst part of it, is that we're giving them what we need. I'm not even telling a woman, you need to be this. We're just saying, this is what we like. This is what we don't like. This is what we want you to do if you want to find good men that'll respect you and love you and cherish you and care for you. And women are like, okay, thanks for telling me. Hello, Chad, want to smash? And you're like, okay. Okay. At least we told you what we wanted. And then women can ignore it.
Listen, Joker, I got to get going here, but I face a paradox. I have 42 super chats. Do you want to stick around?
Oh, yeah. And, let me see how many. I got 4.
You got 4. You want to do yours first? And if you got a split?
I'm not as popular tonight. I'll read mine real quick. Bubbex says PH ghettos are awesome. Filipino ghettos are awesome and totally not full of trash. You shut your bald mouth. Bubbex lives in the Philippines. Broken says MK Ultra trained people to kill without them knowing. Theory, really. Women slaughtered over 100 million babies with baby deletion since 1960s when MK Ultra was a thing. Well, yes, women kill more than anybody. Dog Welder says 250. Hey guys, hope all's well. What's going on? What did I miss? Live stream. Thanks for showing up. And James S1200 said $15. Thank you, sir. Ace, he didn't say anything. And Aiden says, I'm here, you faggot. You're popular to someone. Thank you. That is my locals chat. You can always tell. All right, go ahead.
All right. We got Aaron, the trans power walking champion. Thank you. It's about time my bull does a stream with me. This guy picked, basically I make money where people can insult me through the super chats. It's a good time.
You and me both.
Yep. To the chickens, $5. Don't forget to get permission for lot clearing on your own property.
I don't need permission for anybody.
Iron Horse Reviews, $2. Why did you guys build versus getting a mobile home?
I mostly did because my mother's 85 and she might have needed to, she has macular degeneration. She might need to come live with me at some point. And I wanted a home she would feel comfortable in, and I needed a studio and all this other stuff. So that's why I did it.
My girlfriend is with me and I need a recording studio and just needed the room. And I'm not against a mobile home, but it would be, they're too linear. If I was single, yeah, absolutely. Probably have a mobile home. Ed Frothingham, $2. He says, hello. Thank you. Dung is fun. $2. Goodwill or Helping Hands in big cities. Nice stuff. Oh yeah. For furniture and stuff. A Pringles can with vein. He's changed it. He's Kermit the Frog now. $5. Holy shit. The rare Cappy Joker collab. Gentlemen, thank you for both of what you do. Note, offer up plus Facebook Marketplace. Cheap coat paint like new. Okay. So that's a good place to find some furniture. Reen Schwartzer, $5. My 2 favorite guys who preach facts and reality. No white girl blood on tap here. Don't forget communist Hure. That was gold and boomer chick vid. Okay. Reen, why don't you email that to me? Zeke, Zeke, where have you been, man? It's good to see him. He's back, $20. Glad to catch my 2 favorite leprechauns on the internet streaming together. Been watching both of you for years now. 22-year-old male myself and have the right knowledge to get ahead in life. Thanks to you guys. Keep it up. See, that's what I'm talking about. Like Zeke, he may not like the world he's gotten born into, but he is nowhere near confused or susceptible to being hoodwinked. I think he's way more based because he tunes in.
I think a girl's going to suck him off one time and he'll fall into that trap once.
I don't know. I mean, there's no way we're going to measure it, but he stands a better shot than we did, right?
Very, very true. Very
true.
All
right. Wet Willie's wetter water. $5 self-worth comes from discovering your limits and pushing them further away inch by inch. Correct. Free gender, $5. We need to stop saying ladies are made with dieting, working out, and pleasant attitudes. If you can get them to do those 3 things, you'll be a trillionaire. Reed Schwartz, $5. Aaron's face from Michael Sartain's podcast is my new favorite meme. Did you see that video?
Is that the one where your soul was leaving your body?
Yes, that's the one.
I don't know what they were talking about. I forget. But these women
Hey.
are just prattling on, and he's like,
Yeah, just if you want, you can watch. It's just horrible. It's just horrible. It just looks like he wanted to find a long rope. I did for them, not me. Dung is fun. $2. Pawn shops are great for tools, building furniture. Glor Fidel, $2. Semen retention will create challenges for you. I've not had a trouble with my vasectomy. I've had it for, it's going to be 20 years coming up here pretty soon.
I'm, let's see, how far am I on mine? 17 years on mine?
You didn't grow a third leg or something like that? Or
no. Gain a few pounds, but that's my fault.
Reed Schwartz are $5. There's no more red pill rage. We have the data, and frankly, women have told men to their face, we don't like you that much. Magnum Opus, Prince Revolver, $20 generous dollars. Once you get tired of your own BS, women move down in the list. There's no animosity involved. You start to realize how much time you don't have. Men should always be aware of that. Women will be okay with or without you. That's another thing. I mean, as I've gotten older, it's like, hey, there ain't a lot of time on the clock left here.
Right. And women are, they say they're fine without us. They make their own money. They do their own thing. But again, these are women that are getting attention from men. You ask that same woman when she gets 45 or so, if she's fine without men, that's when the crying starts. Where are all the good men?
It sounds like a them problem.
Yep.
Boo Boo, 50 Philippine pesos. I'm going to super chat in here. It's cheaper than Rumble. Lupton Pittman, 10 generous dollars. I hooked up with a smoke show grad student a few times. Then somehow our conversation revealed that she didn't know the difference between Austria and Australia. It totally killed it for me. See, then your libido starts to go down a little bit there, man.
We're different. If you're just talking about a hit it and quit it, I don't care if she doesn't even understand Australia exists. Who cares?
I've 3 gals talked themselves out of me. Like I was like, I can't do this. Biscuit, $2. Come on, guys, give the big girl a chance. No, I need to be physically attracted to the girl.
Yep.
Glorfindel, $2. Women will always be available. They will adopt. Bill Smith, $5. U.S. women make up 5% of the Earth's females. There's literally 500 million single, petite, thin, beautiful females around 5 feet tall in Southeast Asia. Ecom Dynamics, Shopify, SEO, and WordPress SEO, $5. Foreign women are greater than American women. I trade US dollars for cheap living, get tax perks abroad, and love life in Mexico City, safer and better than people say. I've always been fascinated about Mexico. I just want to ride my bike there, but like, don't go through Sinaloa or whatever.
You better fly there and take your bike and only go in certain areas.
Yeah, but I want to take my bike. That would be because it's just I've ridden a little bit into Mexico, and I could ride all day. Robert Archer, $2. What is this taking it easy you fellas speak of? Rob works in Minot, North Dakota, on a farm and endures below 0 temperatures all the time.
Well, that's his choice, though. He could get a job if he wanted to.
He's compensated. Reen again for $5. Mainstream media is dead. They still haven't solved the Scooby-Doo mystery yet. We don't have time to listen to them. Robert Archer, our North Dakota agent in the field. It's calving season, and I need more coffee. Farming waits for no man. Have a good evening, Mr. Cappy and Joker. All right, get a good night's rest there, Robert. Potato sauce, 2 Australian. Clary's test on Joker's Mrs. Yana Hawking. She's got to have a worthless degree. I don't think she's ever worked a real job in her life. I don't necessarily think she came from wealth, and it's debatable what she's doing now is real work. I'm going to give her a score of 2.5. No, I don't want to have a beer with her, and no, she should not run for office. Reen Schwartzer, $10 again. Joker, I'll disagree. I think younger men are going to be out of the game so fast they won't make that mistake. Cappy did a video after about 10 approaches, and they are out of the game. Cappy has that data. I'm trying to remember the 10 approaches.
I mean, I understand guys are not necessarily going to go for it, but it happens. You're in a line at the grocery store. The cashier's cute. She smiles at you, and she says, well, blah, 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 whatever. If you change numbers with a girl and you decide, hey, well, we'll see. Even if you start out negatively, women have a great way of worming to the point where you think, hey, wow, I might have a unicorn. This is different than anything and now she's got another dude's dick in her mouth. Like, everybody gets suckered at least once.
I remember the video Reen's referencing. What I'll do, I'll send it to you. I'll Twitter it to you. You would find it interesting because it's a little bit of new economic data and thought. Anthony Vader, $50 generous dollars. Is he from your channel?
If he is, it's by a different name and on locals. So
think he's been here a couple times. Thank you very much for the $50. Longtime fan, guys. Keep up the great work. Thank you, Anthony. Really appreciate the donation. Potato sauce, 2 Australian. Cappy for president, Joker for VP 2020. Why does the younger guy got to be the president? Shouldn't you be the president and then I'd be the vice president?
Hell no, because the executive orders I write, I'd be assassinated about 3 hot minutes.
Okay, well then I guess I would be president, so it wouldn't really matter.
That's right.
Petar Stoyanov, 50 Bulgarian levs. Hi, guys. The only functional relationship in Bulgaria and Romania are with women who are strongly political, anti-woke, or very strongly practicing Christians. All others are brainwashed or literally hewers on Telegram. 1 in tier 10 here is married. So things have changed since 2018 that you were there?
Well, I mean, Bulgaria and Romania, again, that's kind of like along with Ukraine and Russia, that whole Eastern bloc, it's very much like if... they're either the girls work in the streets or like you're going to meet the family before you get to lay a finger on anything, if you know what I mean. So, very conservative. But if you're looking for a wife and kids, it's kind of what you want.
Okay. Magnum Opus, $5. A felon who treats them like a bum gets better treatment than average Joe that treats them well. I just had a super chat beforehand from a guy. He had 2 girls he was juggling and things were going well. And then once they both found out he wasn't a drug dealer, for whatever reason, they thought he was a drug dealer and then in reality, it was a mechanic. They both disappeared. I'm just like, there you go. Just say you're a drug dealer.
That's it.
Big Shell, $2. We need Terrence Pop in this chat. Good to see. That'd be great to have Pop.
Yeah, we should schedule something with the 3 of us.
Yeah. Problem is we're all busy doing our stuff. And My Truth, the king. $5. When true price discovery rug pulls the current reserve currency, all these luxury beliefs are going to go from full speed to full stop. Everyone loses. Yep. The only thing preventing women from adhering to reality is we are standing in between them and reality. And when we're gone, reality is not, nature is harsh, and women will learn that. Charlie Horse, $1. Thank you very much. Magnum Opus, $5. The best thing any Western male can help to women is to get out of their way and let them figure it out. I think that's true. Like, didn't your old man just kind of like every once in a while, all right, yeah, you go ahead, drink that beer. You go ahead, smoke that cigarette, see what happens.
Yep. And during very many things, and that's how you learn. But again, society coddles women to the point they don't have to learn any hard lessons.
Stan the Milkman, $5 Australian. I had a date planned with a girl. 15 minutes late, I left. 5 minutes later, text that she was there. I said I left. I could have texted I was shitty. No, sorry. No, that was good.
I do
Let
that.
them learn. That's exactly what they got to learn.
Yep.
So now for the next guy, you think she's going to be late?
Yep.
Very less likely.
At 15 minutes, you were generous. At 15, I usually give it 5 or 10, and then I'm out.
Johnny Franco, $2 Neo and Cypher. Hey, yeah.
You
are Cypher. Look at that.
Yeah, you have to be Cypher because I'm definitely the fat schizo one.
Put me back in the machine.
I want to know the taste of steak.
Reverend Brown, $5, saying that they were propagandized is still taking accountability away from them. I know. I was looking for a vector like, look, well, it's true too, but I've kind of.
I mean, we were propagandized with the blue pill mindset, and then we saw reality, and we had to unwind it all. And if you ask a guy, well, is it your fault or whoever told you that? I think most guys would say, well, kind of both at least. But if you stay in the blue pill world, that's your fault. You have to take accountability for your choices.
John Sarah's a genius. $5. 80% of social media is just women talking to each other. True. Killadilla, $10 generous. This is the best live stream in the history of live streams. Joker, Cappy, do this more often, unless it's the lack of frequency that makes it so great. Absence makes the heart grow fonder, they say. It's just time, man. Like, you built a house. I built a house.
I have so much furniture and crap. I got to build a lawn. I'm living in a mud pit. I literally, they cleared the forest floor and grazed all the trees. I'm like, if it rains, I'm walking in this much like clay. I got to get lawn in. I got so much stuff to do.
I'm cut out. Are you there?
Yeah, I'm here. I'm good.
Okay. Did I send you a copy of that Zero World Problems?
I don't think so. No, I don't recall. I don't remember seeing it.
Home ownership and everything and building a home. So did I cut out again?
A little bit. Yep.
Yeah. I'll drop it in the mail, but it's 3 years work.
Okay. Yeah. Please do.
Looking at you. Reverend Brown, $10. It's absolutely hilarious. Women roll closer at 40, understanding men or life as they were at 20, having perpetually easy life for 20 plus years stunts their growth horribly. That's true. Arrested Development.
Yep.
Reed Schwartzer, $5. The difference will be men don't buy as much useless crap. Women buy that. So men won't need to make as much money. What was Cappy? 24,000 or something in this one, A World Without Men.
Yeah.
Men can scale down depending on where you live to about $22,000 a year.
Yep.
And so
I believe it.
that would drop GDP per capita is 86,000. So by about 75%, if men need to, we could cut our production by 3/4. You will not have an economy if we do that.
Oh, no.
Novatrix, 10 Canadian. Now, this is what I'm talking about. Need both of you collaborating, making a list of essential skills and worthwhile art and media in the interest of prepping for collapse when civil pillars crumble. Gen X. I know. Joker, what's your favorite movie?
Oh, boy.
Aside from Die Hard, what's your second favorite movie?
Die Hard's probably not my... give me a genre, at least.
Let's say Western.
Let's see, Blazing Saddles.
Blazing Saddles. Okay. I would go with probably Good, Bad, and the Ugly.
I mean, definitely all the Clint Eastwoods are on there, but any movie that can, drop the N-word at least, 30 times in a movie, you got to go with that.
What about Tropic Thunder? Where would that rate?
Oh, that's a great one as well. As far as militaries, that's right up there in the military movies. That's definitely a good one.
Okay. I'd say Kelly's Heroes is up there for the military movies.
I'm just a sucker for like comedy. I've always loved comedy movies. Can't go wrong.
Oh my God! Speaking of comedy, look at this Hanyaker. Atham Decua, $5. Holy shit, Aaron! I met you when you were in your late 30s. Time flies. Oh yeah, Atham, you and I have been buddies for over 10 years now. I got a picture of him when he was skinny and attractive. Now he's just fat. I kid. He went to college and now he's losing the weight. The Plains Warrior, $2. Can't be so short. His homies are the Keebler elves. Cynic in Chief. Hey, buddy. He's kind of your neck of the woods. $2. Who is this joke? Not Better Bachelor, but the old short guy. You know who I am, Cynic. You ever have him in your chat room?
And again, the only streams I do are really on locals and on Rumble, okay. And most of the guys that would watch me on Rumble are on locals, and they all, most of them go by different names.
Well, be happy you don't want him in your chat room. Forget to hell with Cynic and Chief. Boo boo, 50 Philippine pesos. How do I get the girls, Aaron? How? You be tall, you be good looking, you tell them no, and you go overseas, which is what Boo Boo was doing. Reen Schwartzer, $5. Hey, Cappy, was referring to the communist woman video you did recently, Vote in Marxism. Oh, then we will sleep with you. Do you watch the video channel Men Need to Be Heard?
No, I just don't have time to watch other
content. You don't have time?
Really, no.
He's got a video of a gal saying, if you guys installed a matriarchy, then we'd sleep with you.
Bullshit.
I got to send you a bunch of references.
The minute that happens, they put us all in chains and slave drive us into the dirt.
Oh, yeah. Yep. Moonpilled Rational Optics, $2. New Book of Numbers and Letters, 304 is an LGHTV. Oh, okay. I get it.
Yeah, that's what I call the community. That's a good way to get around the YouTube censors.
Rick the Electrician, $10 generous dollars. It's my contention that this whole guys being short thing has been glorified and pushed by 50% of men over 60. No, I think it's hardwired.
Yep. The funny thing is a woman would take a 6-foot tall puss rather than a 5'7" guy that knows martial arts and has a sidearm, because they're just
they've proven this with studies and all that. It's like short men are like our fat women. We just don't like them.
Yep.
Mandy, 10 generous dollars. I have two 75-plus-year-old boomer narcissist parents as a 26-year-old. I've been trapped in their abuse cycle until a year ago. How can I heal from true narcissistic abuse as I feel I haven't fully developed? Well, gee, I mean, $10 worth, we don't have the time. That's really something you go talk to a therapist. I'd recommend Dr. David Maloney at histherapist.com, but he's booked solid. Maybe look up Paul Benjamin at Apex Mindset. But basically, you got to get out from under them. So you're living on your own, and then you have to discover who you are and what you want to do. and you need to work and talk to a therapist. That's basically all I really can recommend, because I don't know how one goes through recovering from all that much of a broken home.
I would recommend a male therapist over the age of 50.
Oh yeah,
Because
pissed off grizzled vet.
Because they went through schooling and all that before they got into the woke and the feelings and the fifis and all the. They'll make you do the work. They learn the old book smart way and not the. Well, let's get in touch with your inner child. They'll put you through the work. Old dude.
I was pissed off grizzled Vietnam veteran. I'm like, that's the guy I want to listen to.
Yep.
Bob Dabalina, $5. Giving a beer because both of you are doing great work with the youngins. Prevent them from making my mistake marrying a U.S. woman. We're doing it, and we are succeeding. Burbshide, 5 Australian. Speaking of male feminists, white knights calling people incels on the internet always seems to have a physiognomy that suggests cognitive dissonance. Male feminists, yeah, they do got to look, don't they?
They assume because you have something critical to say that you don't have the love and or touch of a good woman. That's the only comeback they have.
Matt Baker, 87, 10 Canadian. Totally get it, guys. When you find the needle in the haystack, you got to lock her down, though. Replacement theory and population collapse is real. My two favorite fellas chatting up. Keep it up.
There is no locking it down.
Yeah.
You
know that.
Sorry, I was just going to say, you can never, there's no way to lock down a woman. How do you lock her down? Marry her? No. Have kids with her? No. You don't, you be the best guy you can be with her. And that's as close as you're going to get to lock it down. But don't do it legally, because then she'll take half your shit.
The only thing I can add to that to lock them down, just make it abundantly clear to them, you fuck up, I will leave you.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I found that to be like, there's no commitment. You earn my presence. And if you fuck up or fuck up a lot, it's like, no, I will leave.
Yep.
That's the only thing that'll keep them around.
No second chances.
Replacement theory. Samson Joshua, $5. Did you see a video about a guy who has no bills and lives in a shed? Guess he found a way to evade taxes until the IRS finds a way to get to him. Well, he's going to have to work or produce something. Rick the electrician, $10. There's also another underlying issue of white men seeking race loyalty. And there's a large group of men who won't touch a woman once she goes outside her race. And that group of men is big. I think I was hearing something about China that's huge. Like if you're in China and you step outside the Chinese race, the men will have nothing to do with you.
There's a little bit of that here too. I mean, of course, you see the memes and stuff flying on X where a woman's sitting there on a dating profile with her, half black kid in her lap, and everybody calls her a coal burner. And it's like, gee, I wonder why you're single. I mean, that happens. I think that happens everywhere, though. I mean,
oh yeah, race traders.
Asians
go within the black community,
and Asians hate every other kind of. Call it Korean, call it Korean Japanese, call it Japanese Chinese, call it Chinese Korean. They all hate each other.
A Taiwanese, the mother of this gal I was dating, she hated my. I didn't even know her. It's just because it was this white boy. It's like, lady, you're in Minnesota. Who do you think you're talking about? You're going to go to the big Taiwanese community over here in Minnesota? What? Oh, underline, Pringles can with veins, $2. Add Rhinestone next. I'd love to see you all. We'll get Ryan in here.
He hates me.
It's what?
He hates me.
Ryan hates you?
Yeah, he did a 2-hour roast video on me.
Good Lord.
Yeah.
I ain't got time for beefs, man.
I don't even remember.
Petty.
I don't remember what it was about. I mean, I don't have any hate against him, but he just went off on me for like 2 hours. I was like, okay.
I don't have the time for it. Matt Baker, 5 Canadian. For Joker, Blazing Saddles reference, horses, we can't afford horses. Shifted Twisty, $5. Love both channels, 35 and divorce. Had many relationships. I stay clear of women now, living my best years. Bring a dad and competitive arm wrestle. Okay, cool. Darmy, 713, $10. Hey, gents, counterpoint. Should we continue to produce, lead, and own the majority of wealth instead of relinquishing to women? Well, that would be stopping with marriage, right?
I mean, if you think about it, like if you're a network engineer and you're producing lots of money, how does anybody else get that money? Taxes, but we all pay that. And the other way they get it is by you spending money. So just be smart on what you spend your money on, and you control your money.
I would also say your time and your presence. Like, look, you don't get my time unless you're obedient and pleasant to be around. And then also, no, you're not living with me. No, you don't get free rent. I tell you the amount of guff I caught because I charged my girlfriend rent.
You should.
Yeah. It's like I was giving her a good deal. And oh my God, I can't believe it. Like, fuck you.
Well, go find the cheapest place you can go find right now. It's going to be at least $1,000, $1,200 for a shithole.
Mhm.
So you charge her $800 no blowjob. It's fair.
And I can actually say my girlfriend is strong and independent.
There you go.
Novatrix, 10 Canadian, went shoveling snow at families, found out what it took to woo the girl next door. BMW and 6 foot tall. That's simple. How can 5'9" midgets compensate starting a band, successful gambling on the stock market? Joker, you and I are shorter guys. What do you recommend? I got my opinions.
Mine was be in good shape, be financially, be comfortable, know how to dress nicely, and be the funniest, most interesting guy in the room. If you can do that, you will get attention. That's all there is to it.
Mine was stay in shape, ask out a lot of girls, and then ballroom dancing was my in. In other words, be a situational alpha.
But they probably thought you were gay, so.
No, not these girls.
I love ballroom dancing. Would you like to go out with me
this
Friday?
You know what? I'll go do it. We're not talking the waltz or some lame ass shit. We're talking like salsa and swing and tango, like James Bond shit. I look good. I got laid a lot through that.
Yeah, it's the trick. Would you like to go out with me? I do salsa dancing.
Yeah, okay.
Then they go out with
You know what?
And then you
one
trick
of these
them.
days, I'm going to come on down there. We're going to go to Nashville or something. I'll find a hootenanny and I'll tear up that floor. And then you'll be like, oh, shit. Yeah, he does know what he's doing.
I'm sure the ladies over 55 love you.
Wow. Okay. You're going to go that, huh? Do you want to promote your channel? Not that most of my audience doesn't know who you are, but in case there's some people who don't.
On Rumble, I am Odd Man Out. I changed away from the Better Bachelor moniker. Just because I'm doing news stories and other stuff too, and I wanted to branch out because I'm at a certain point. It's like I want to talk about other shit than just fucking women all the time. So on Rumble, I'm Odd Man Out, and just go over there and there's a little join button on Odd Man Out that'll leapfrog you over to my Rumble community. But we got a huge, not Rumble, locals community. We got a huge locals community. As a matter of fact, I'd say half my streams have more people watching on locals than Rumble. So it's behind a paywall. So we watch movies. You got to come for a movie night, by the way.
I do. I got time to do it again now. I used to come there, 6 months ago, but now
well, if you want to, instead of just showing up and posting in the comments, you can be a co-host. Will you please wait for that? Thank you. My dog just wants to play. But instead of coming as a viewer, you can jump on and be a co-host with me, and I'll play some stuff. We can Mystery Science Theater 3000 roast the shit out of it. But yeah, we do movies, UFC events on Saturdays and football and all that. That's at betterbachelor.local.com. But yeah, just go over to Odd Man Out. That's where I do my, you see a little picture of a light bulb. And that's where I do my streams. Get off YouTube, though. Fuck YouTube.
Cool. For all you here, if you would kindly subscribe to the channel. If you're not familiar with me, my name's Aaron Clarey. I got this. I do Asshole Consulting. Books germane to what we've been talking about, World Without Men, an analysis of an all-female economy. And yes, it would be a bunch of skulls. And Joker, take a look at this. You remember that?
Oh, yeah, the Better Bachelor edition.
Better Bachelor edition of the Book of Numbers. This is the fancy one where
I still have the copy you sent me. I got it somewhere locked away in one of my containers. So once I get a bookcase here behind me to decorate, I'll put it up on there.
Yeah. And you wrote the intro, which required just a touch of editing.
No, I didn't. I basically was like, here's some thoughts I have. And you're like, let me fix this shit. He wasn't lying. He writes like a monkey with writing with a dead foot of a rabbit. That's how I write.
I don't even know if it was that good.
Probably not.
But no, he wrote this. I said, Joker, write an intro for you. Oh, no, I'm a horrible writer. I'm like, nah, you're not that bad. He's just being modest. Then I get it. I'm like, holy shit, this is horrible.
I told you. I'm an honest man. If I say I can't write, I can't write. Let me tell you.
All right. We got one more super chat. Then we'll go Boo Boo for 50 Philippine pesos. Joker's local is gay and tardy. Love it. Okay.
That's got to be Bub X.
I bet you it is.
It's probably Bub X over on my channel because I know he lives in Philippines and that's how he spells gay because he's gay. So that's got to be Bub X.
That's him. So RNJ Dub $10 more. Let's ask Tom Likas about the ballroom dancing. Oh God, did he say something about ballroom dancing?
Who knows?
I remember him saying. All right, that's it. Joker, thanks for having me on, man. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, bud. Thanks for. I'm going to drop off, guys that are over here on Locals Rumble. I'm going to read the rest of your super chats, so don't go anywhere. Thanks for having me, bud. I appreciate it as always. And yeah, we'll do a movie night or something. You can come over and roast some crazy movies over on the channel. So
cool. All right,
bud.
see you, Chief.
We'll see you soon.